All right, Nick, we're live. Live on YouTube. And I am back. This time it's a 5-1 lead for the Cincinnati Reds. I'm not sure how you brought the intros in the last week, but I do know this. This team looks good. I didn't get a chance to see them play the last 3 or 4 days. I hear all this fuss. I don't know what it's all about, considering I just watched them. I seen them lose 1 game to the Cubs, and I come back. And I mean, they look good now. They look good.
Yeah, no more vacations for you. You are not allowed. Appreciate you hanging me out to dry the last 5 days.
That was pretty bad, Nick.
Chat all by myself.
I bet they were nice to you too.
They were sweethearts.
I bet a guy like you in a time like this that's like peanut butter and chocolate goes perfectly well together. Mr. Ball of optimism coupled with pure dumpster fire, that goes well.
Thanks. It is 5-2. Yeah, see, I'm not in mid-season form. See,
it's okay.
When you have like 5 days of the game cast on there, then you have to do it yourself. It takes a minute to get back in the groove.
All right, here we go, guys. Listen, the past is the past, baby. The past is the past. That's all I can tell you. All right? We need likes. We need 3 more outs before they get 3 runs, that is, to be clear. Make sure that the objective is clear tonight.
How was your vacation, Trace?
It was good. I got to play a lot of golf. I played mostly really good golf, which is always fun. The only bad part was honestly checking the score of the Reds game. That was about the only bad part. I mean, that genuinely put me in a bad mood every so often, but when you're on a golf course and it's sunny outside, you're with a bunch of your friends, and you're enjoying the fruit and labor of the men and women who work hard on making lager. It can't be that bad. It can't be that bad.
Love it.
It's on a golf trip, Matt. That's what I was on, my man. I was. It was enjoyable. It was a great time. Like I said, I'm sorry what happened to you. I feel really bad for Elliot. I mean, Nick, I feel bad for you, but I feel even worse for Elliot. I mean,
it was just a tough week all around. There was
I can't
tough vibes.
Just can't imagine having to go to Chicago and seeing what's going on. Pretty tough scenes.
Hopefully Reed comes back to his Cubs just falling apart. Got on his boat, got on his cruise, and comes back, and they
that'd be nice, apart. Wouldn't it? Who's the scorekeeper for the Reds? Just curious. Do we know?
He's been there a long time. I know that. I think they like celebrated his like 150th year with the team.
Oh, is he? Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that's one of those jobs like you get and you cannot lose under any circumstances.
Well, maybe so. I know. I don't know. Kevin Newman must have taken him out for some.
Alley Jack and the comment Newman's father.
Seems that way, doesn't it? Doesn't it, Alley Jack? I'll tell you. That's where I was going with it. I didn't know. You must be bringing them like Werthers in every day or something.
Come on, Kev. Shut him up.
Yeah. Let's see what you got, Kev. He hit a ball hard. He hit a ball hard earlier in the game.
Stole a base.
Stole a base, yeah.
8 pegs.
Yeah, I mean, good golly day. They might want to look at that. They might want to. You know what? I'll tell you what. There's nothing like watching it. There's nothing like watching a bad catcher and starting to appreciate maybe what you have a little bit more at times, because we've been hard. I've been hard on Stevenson, but
it could be worse. You know what? You should really go look at Miami's catching situation. They might have like the 2 worst offensive catchers on the planet.
What about their third one? How's he?
Well, if they had a third, I mean, they'd be a little better off, obviously.
Oh, this show's stupid. If you didn't think that was funny right there, that little humorous dig at Nick for the third catcher isn't funny, then I don't know what to tell
Hey,
you.
we've only had 2 catchers for like 3 weeks.
Oh, that's a good at bat though. It's all right. Good at bat. Good at bat. You get him next time, big dog.
You know, a good at bats tonight that I'm going to talk about is CES. I thought he had fantastic at bats tonight.
Fix the J bar. They want the player formerly known as Mouse Cop is on it. Mouse Cop, he wants it. Listen, Mouse Cop, you're like, first of all, Mouse Cop, you got to realize you know the drill. What's wrong with the J-bar? No, nothing. You are every bit of like probably a pit.
Yeah,
not even a pitch. Probably 4 pitches ahead of us because I'm on Fubo, which we've already discussed why this is so drawn. And I also want to set the record straight while I have time before this big official real show starts.
Oh, Skip Schumacher just got thrown out.
Nice, like that.
See you, Skip. Skip is no question in my top 5 least favorite Reds of all time. Skip Schumacher was my Kevin Newman.
Ooh.
Hated Skip Schumacher.
Wow.
Despised him. Sweep the Marlins ass just for Skip. Guy
Brutal.
Couldn't hit, couldn't field, couldn't run. He could do nothing. He wasn't even a platoon player.
Oh, man.
I was a little more angry back then, though. Kids really mellowed me out.
Did they?
Yeah.
They didn't mellow me out.
Everything in life
I tried 3 of them. Not a single one of them made me any mellower.
I'm sure, Trace, you were dialed in to yesterday's show, but Who's Your Daddy was giving me grief because Fairchild came up as the tying run.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, watch, Stuart Fairchild's going to rip one to the warning track to end the game. And Who's Your Daddy's going to give it to me for the whole show. And Stuart Fairchild, sure enough, ripped one to the warning track.
Yeah. Right field, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was listening to Tommy Thrall. Does a good job. Tommy does a good job. Boy, they're shifting him way hard. He hits one down the left field line. He might easily score.
Fun fact, Tanner Scott is from Ohio.
Is he? Where from?
Akron area.
Nice. I'm assuming he didn't go to the Zips. It was not a Zip.
He went to like some community college in Texas.
Oh, so he's good at baseball then. Oh, nice pitch. That's a tough pitch to hit. It's a tough pitch to field at second base. Tough pitch to hit there. Sometimes baseball's tough. All right, Diaz.
I'm clearing it. Mouse Cop, give me a second.
Cleared out.
There you go.
Top 9. Nobody out.
It's like 4 clicks when you got a base runner on, so it takes me a second.
I'm just reading this chat, and boy, it's I tell you what, they don't miss.
They're on edge. They're on edge.
They should be.
Who's your daddy?
They should be.
Love you, brother.
They should be. Boy, I tell you what, I can't wait to look back at this roster in 3 to 4 years with you. Gonna be some doozies on here. I can't call him out by name right now, but it's gonna be like, do you remember him? He played 50 games for us. It's gonna be like, hopefully, this is all speculative, but hopefully we're like arguing over who's the best player in our infield, and 2 guys are up for MVP considerations. And
I will say this. I think Stuart Fairchild has a better chance of being on the roster next year than Nick Senzel.
Well, that's not even. Come on, that's not a hot take. I thought you were going to say a better chance than
CES or something.
I don't know, like Maley or Stevenson or something. Senzel publicly said he was actually hoping to be traded.
Yeah.
Which I kind of understand. I mean, these guys want to play. I mean, Nick
They're
Senzel
trying to earn money. Like,
well, I think they've earned money. Like, okay, let's backtrack a little bit. So, like, I don't think it's even some of it's about money, sure, but these guys are competitors. They've their whole life they've grown up playing this game where they've more times than not been the absolute best player on the field. And at some point, when you're Nick Senzel, you were the top guy, and you've been hurt. You finally, relatively for the most part, not to jinx it, but he's been relatively healthy this year. And he's playing on a team where he just doesn't get everyday playing time, and I could understand him wanting to go somewhere to get everyday playing time. To see in his mind, he probably wants to know if he thinks he can bounce back and be a big-time player that he probably thought he was going to be before all the injuries occurred, which I think is fair on all parties.
Yeah, but he's got 2 years left of his initial contract. The last 2 years are your highest earning years of arbitration. So the more at bats he gets, the more money he's going to make. So
that's fair too. I
mean,
guess
that's a big deal. I mean, you know, I know he's earned a decent amount of money. Most of it was from his signing bonus, but I mean, if Senzel flops the next 2 years, this is his last chance to earn money before he's going on minor league contracts after that. So yeah, I don't blame him in the least bit. I'd be in the same boat.
That's fair, and that's probably a decent amount of the reasoning behind it too, but I just was thinking in general terms of just wanting to play. It's not fun sitting on the bench. Even if you're on a winning team, I don't think it's different if you're a veteran, Nick. I think that if you're a veteran and you've had your time and you're playing on a good team, you're cool. You're kind of cool with accepting your role. I don't think Nick Senzel's at a point in his career where he's like, I'm glad that we're in the playoff race. I love sitting on the bench every day. But it's here nor there. And that's outside of just the money part, and the money part definitely comes into play. All right, back to the game. Diaz, let's get an out. How about that? Eat an out. Hey, Logan, I need you to read that tweet again. I need you to read that tweet like 3 times and just think to yourself what it means. Golly day. We're walking, guys. It's just like, let's not make this hard, Nick.
Please, one easy one. That's all I ask. Don't ask for much.
What's up? What is up with this team in leadoff walks, man?
Yeah. Killed him a lot in Chicago. I know.
Yeah, it definitely killed him. Can we get a ground ball double play though? I'll tell you what, Stevenson's receiving the ball a lot better. If you were getting ready to say something, No. Anyway, I do want to say that. Listen, I try to say what I see, and I thought Stevenson has been a little better. What a name, Burger. Fits him well. Oh, man. I haven't scoreboard watched today. What's the latest with that?
Rockies winning 1-0 over the Brewers, and the Cubs, I believe, are down 4 runs. They're in the middle of the game against the Mets. It's like they're down 7-2 in the top of the 7th. They're fixing the mound right now in Queens.
Oh, no. Nick.
Might have to put away the chat. I was hoping this was not a game where we'd have to put away the chat.
Nick, don't make us put away the. Oh my gosh! All right, chat.
I love you.
All right, chat. All right, listen. You know what? I felt this way this morning, and I'm doing it again. The energy. Maybe it's stupid. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it makes no sense. It's just like the Elf movie where, everybody's got to get the Christmas spirit involved, and it just and maybe you'll make fun of that. Maybe you think that's a big nothing, I don't want to say nothing burger with burger just walked, and I've gotten called out before by saying nothing burger is a stupid word, but that's what it is. Maybe it's a nothing burger, but I'm telling you, the energy that we need to create in Cincinnati or Cincinnati Reds fans in general right now is positivity. We have to have positive vibes. I need a double play. Or hell, I'll take a strikeout. I don't give a damn. We need an out, chat. Strike one, Nick. We're going to stop feeling sorry for ourselves around here. We're going to stop begging for wins. We're going to take it to them. Throw some damn strikes. Make him put the ball in play. What's up with Diaz, man? Why is he? Why? Feels like he's just tentative.
Wow.
Yeah, they're warming somebody up. Mole.
That's a little quicker than I would expect out of.
He's not
DB.
feeling right. He's not feeling right.
Yeah, they must be seeing something.
How do you not know this before you come in the game, though? With all due respect, if he's hurt, just tell someone you're hurt, bro, or go down after your first pitch.
Thanks for swinging there, bud.
Yeah, we'll take it. Was that a strike, sir? If you have to ask, you know the answer.
Oh, great. The old 376 hitter.
We just need an out. We need one out. Start with that.
Oh, hell yeah. Cubs got to sit through a rain delay down 7-2. Yeah. There we go.
All right. He caught it. Stevenson. Oh, he didn't even hit it. Didn't touch the ball. I thought he foul tipped it and was acting
I thought he did too.
Well, he thought he did too. It doesn't matter, Barry. When you swing and miss, like the replay just showed, it doesn't matter if it hit the ground. I don't give a damn about any of that, John. Ooh, we'll take it. Hey, this is another one of those umpire scorecard games, Nick.
Yeah.
It is. Straight up. We're going to have maybe 0.7 of a run.
We had a couple rough ones last week, so.
Yeah, they all even
I was just about to say that. They really do. Holy crap. Whoever the Rockies' third baseman just made one of the plays of the year on the Brewers. Wow.
I love it. I hope this guy strikeouts right here. Touting this 6% strikeout rate. Let's throw a slider in the dirt and let's block the damn thing, Tyler. Or throw a fastball. Double play.
Nope. Oh,
come on.
Newman? Ellie? Welcome back, buddy. Welcome back.
I'm glad to be back, baby. I'm glad to be back. Let's do a show, Nick. Let's do a baseball show.
Throw to first and Homer Bailey for the second time in his major league career has tossed a no-hitter. Oh, gosh. Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? Holy Moses, the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win it. What a dream beginning to a career of Jay Bruce.
Boys and girls and children of all ages, you have never needed to hear a sound like that more than you needed it tonight. Nick, I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to see you still here. I was really concerned about your mental health. I was concerned about the fans on Twitter's mental health. And I got to be honest, I was having a hell of a time while you guys were just drowning in sorrows, and I kept checking my phone, and for about 10 minutes of every day, my day was ruined. But then I kept telling myself, they play tomorrow. They'll win tomorrow. They'll play tomorrow. They'll win tomorrow. And that just never happened. So you know what? I canceled it. I said, boys, I got to leave. I got to go home early. I got business to get back to. I'm glad to see the Reds got back to their winning ways, Nick. I don't know how you're feeling. You've taken a beating on social media, I've seen. How are you doing? Are you doing all right? Are the vitals okay?
The vitals are great now. Let's go. We're back, baby.
We are back. I mean, we're kind of back, if we're being honest. I don't know if we're all the way back, but we're getting closer to being back than we were before. All right, there's a decent amount of stuff to talk about tonight. Williamson's obviously probably topic number one, and he is on the rundown. You got some offense. Some offense. We'll talk about what you felt like really quickly, because I'm obviously catching back up from the disappointment that was the last few days, and I'm trying to wrap my head around exactly where the issue lies, if anything at all. We maybe can discuss that briefly. I don't really want to rehash things that you've already discussed in previous shows, but just trying to catch up on what I missed. And then the Reds rotation and what that looks like for the future. And then obviously we have the who, what, when, where, and why at the end of the show. But as always, we have the box score recap, Nick. Let's get into that and discuss, I guess, what happened tonight before we get anything else.
All right, Brandon Williamson and the Reds, they had a tall task to try to end their 6-game losing streak, facing the 20-year-old phenom Yuri Perez. Top of the first, Jorge Soler hit a solo home run off Brandon Williamson. Soler raised his hands, rounding the bases, shocked that it went out. Just kind of felt like how things were going for the Reds. 1-0 Marlins early. But in the bottom of the third, Will Benson walked. Benson stole second. Then Ellie De La Cruz walked. And TJ Friedel. If there's been one player that's been playing well on offense, it has been Friedel of late. He ripped a huge triple down the line to put the Reds up 2-1. Then in the bottom of the fourth, Christian Encarnacion Strand and Joey Votto went back-to-back. Both homers, exactly 398 feet. But CES's was to left field, Votto's to right field. And Brandon Williamson, he put the Cincinnati Reds on his back tonight against a lineup that has hit left-handed pitching well all year. He got through 6 2/3 innings, allowing just 1 run with 9 strikeouts and no walks. Lucas Sims came in to relieve Williamson in really one of his only jams of the game with 2 outs and 2 on, and Sims struck out Yuli Gurriel to end the threat. Bottom of the 7th, TJ Friedel singled, stole second, took third base on a bad throw, and then he scored on a Spencer Steer sacrifice fly for a nice insurance run to make it 5-1. Reds bullpen overall got it done. Reds find a way to win 5-2 to snap the 6-game losing skid. And hopefully, if the Mets can hang on against the Cubs, Reds can get themselves back alone in a playoff spot.
You know what time it is. It's time for the Deep South Commodities Drive of the Game, DSC. You've seen it. I told you that if there's a deep drive of the game and Joey Votto hits it, I don't give a damn if it scrapes the wall. I don't care if it hits off a guy's head and bounces over the wall. It is the deep, deep drive of the game. That is a fact. Deep drive of the game, okay? I'm trying to get my bearings straight here. Is sponsored by Deep South Commodities. I don't know how far it went. It says it right on the screen. 398 feet, 99.7 miles an hour. Not the hardest hit home run in the world, but who gives a damn? It's Joey Votto. DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in cooking oil, collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Thank you to our friends John and the gang over there for supporting us, supporting our, I keep calling it a small business. That's what it is. Keep supporting our small business and this run that this Reds team's on. See, here's the thing. Here's the thing, Nick. I want you to really grasp what I'm getting ready to tell you. And when I tell you this, I'm saying it loud enough for the other kids in the room to overhear it. You know, this is one of those things where I'm going to tell you this, but I'm hoping other people latch on. There are times where you can be frustrated, you can be mad, you can say whatever you want to say, get it out of your system, and then look back on it maybe a little bit later in your life and realize, I probably overreacted, or I probably was a little off base in saying that. I think, this is me going off of the old X app, there are reasons for both sides that are screaming and yelling about certain things to be accurate and to be right. I want to discuss that towards the end of the show. I'll leave that towards the end of the show. But I promise you, not that this is a huge revelation, but I'm telling you that there is something that I've seen on the X app that I think both sides are right. I just like to eloquently try to hopefully make amends to both sides. Do I think that both sides are ever going to agree on something? No, I don't. Similar to the political spectrum that we're in. But my main point is, and my main goal here at the end of the show is to try to bring a little bit of justice to both sides in this whole debate of whether or not you should be thrilled to death with this team playing the way they are, or you should be pissed off because this team has blown an excellent opportunity to make the postseason by their week and a half's worth of play. But before we do that, Nick, I think we should talk about Brandon Williamson, a guy that we thought, again, that was going to get thrown to the wolves. We even said that. I think you said that. He was getting thrown to the wolves out in Colorado. Let's just bring this guy up. He's got like an 80 ERA at AAA. He looks lost. He walks the world. He has a blow-up inning every single start. Let's throw him to the wolves in Colorado. And if we're going to be honest, I'm not trying to sing Derek Johnson's praises. But if you're going to get pissed off at DJ for other guys, you have to give him credit for this guy, Nick. You just do.
Yeah, don't know how you could think anything otherwise. If you look at his minor league career numbers, one big spot in this game that really stands out to me. So he gave up the home run to Jorge Soler. They said it on the broadcast before the game started. Jorge Soler, the best hitter in baseball against left-handed pitching. So he's obviously tough matchup. Gives up that really cheap home run. Next time he faces Jorge Soler, batter before Ellie De La Cruz makes an error with 2 outs. Should have ended the inning. So he has to face Soler with a runner on base. Williamson strikes him out. If you ever watched Brandon Williamson in the minor leagues, it snowballed on him. He'd have some success, but then when something didn't go his way, it would snowball on him. That was a huge spot in this game. Got a big strikeout and then just absolutely put the Reds on his back and dominated after that. 17 swing and misses tonight. I don't know what the future is for Brandon Williamson, but he is a valuable pitcher for this team, whether it's as a starter or as a reliever. He's definitely got a spot. And I think you can look at the Reds right now and where the franchise is overall, and you could say, hey, there is 7 pitchers in this organization that I feel like a chance to have to be a decent starter. Green, Lodolo, Abbott, Ashcraft, Phillips, Williamson, and maybe I'm missing someone else. I think there's 7. But nonetheless, you have a decent amount of pitchers.
Connor Phillips.
I think the Reds I think the Reds should probably still look to add at least one free agent this offseason. But I think you're going into next year and you're like, hey, there's a lot of really good pitchers. And for the Reds to ever have a rotation like you saw in 2020 or in 2012, the bulk of their starting pitching has to be developed or traded for. It has to be players that come up through the system. The Reds are never going to go sign 3 or 4 free agent pitchers and have a good rotation. And you need guys like Williamson to fill that rotation out. And he's looking like has a legitimate chance to be one of those pieces.
Yeah. Lisa, thank you for the super chat. I'm going to leave again, though. It's just part of the way it goes in life. But I hope the next time I leave, the house isn't on fire when I get back. Brandon Williamson to me is a guy that is always going to be looked at or believed to be for the indefinite future as a number 4 or 5 starter. And it's nothing against it's nothing against him. I think that he's been unbelievable. Let me be very clear when I say that. He has been unbelievable based off of the expectations that you were going to get out of him and what he's actually done for you. So I don't even really want to. What I'm trying to say is I don't want it to even be a slight towards Williamson. His stuff has gotten a little bit better, but when you watch him, I don't think you're ever like, oh, maybe he gets to be a number 2 someday, or maybe dare I say an ace. That would probably make people like fall out of their chairs laughing at times, but not that there's been anything else on this show that you couldn't have done that with. There's plenty of material for you to do that with. The only thing that I'm hesitant about with this Reds front office when it comes to trying to go get starting pitching is, what are you spending and what is your return, and is it worth it in the long run? And the one thing I do think that this front office, Nick, is going to latch on to a little bit more than they normally would is depth. If there's ever been a year that's proved that you need to have good depth as an organization to be competitive for a full year, to be able to have the ability to go to a postseason consistently, you have to have those guys that are plug and fill guys until your big time guys come back. The truth is we've gotten, and I say lucky, and I don't mean that being disrespectful to our front office and saying they got lucky, but we've been fortunate. The fact that Abbott has been as good as he has been this early in his career when he's come up, Williamson the same way. We've had some disasters. I'm not saying we haven't had some disasters. Luke Weaver's not been great, but my main point of all this is saying that they got their 2 top draft picks that I think in their mind, Nick, might be ready next year, or they'll be close to ready next year. And then you got Williamson, you got Abbott, you got Green, you got Lodolo, you got Ashcraft. You have some opportunities for guys to go down, if you will, or go on the 15-day DL or 10-day IL, not DL, IL, and maybe even longer than that, and still be able to survive in advance. That's what this team is trying to do right now. They're trying to survive in advance. And unfortunately, this past week's not looked that great. But if they could just get back and give themselves a chance, again, be within a couple games of the division with 30 games left, that's what this is about. And I still think that I'd say when I say the best team in this division, I'm not saying I hesitate in saying that because there are holes on this team, Nick. But I do think genuinely you could make an argument that they're the best team in this division. I still think you could. So, I don't know. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think this team's got a chance. I think that's kind of been what I've saying all year. I think that they're in a position they've got to hold the line till Hunter Green comes back. Again, I got a lot of pushback for this because I cited the Fangraphs playoff odds for the Reds right now.
Yeah, let's save that to talk about that a little bit later because I think that's a part of a bigger discussion. And I'm not trying to cut you off, but I know you got crushed. I seen it. It's if you want to tell a little bit of the story on it, you can. But I really want to save that to it. I really want to get into that a little bit because I think that's fair. That's a fair and valid reasonably. And on Twitter, let's be very clear about something. Not Twitter, X. That's on me. I think it's very hard to point out or say anything eloquently in 160 whatever characters it is. That's all. I think in a format like this, we can get a lot farther, is what I'm saying. Pitching in general, let's stick with that really fast. Let's stay on topic for just a second. Your thoughts on, I want to bring this up to you. David Bell pulls Williamson, right? Again, Williamson throwing the ball relatively well. Pulls him, 2 guys on, tying run at the plate. Sims gives up a home run right there. I'm going to tell you right now, David Bell is the worst manager in the history of the game. Since Sims struck him out, no one's going to say anything about it. I wanted to bring that up for you.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Graham Ashcraft gives up a 2-run home run to tie the game on Friday. Tonight, Sims gets a strikeout. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Again, that's why I try not to look at the result of a one instance and say that's the right or wrong decision, because I don't think it's always that way. I think sometimes you can make the right decision and it just not work out. And sometimes you can make the wrong decision and it does work out. But I think this was the right decision today. This was Williamson was going through the order for a third time. You had Sims ready, and I know Sims has been struggling, but I do think Sims' last 2 outings he's looked a little bit better. That was a big strikeout for him. And David also didn't bring Sims back out for a second inning, because Sims tend to struggle of late in the second innings. I know Jabot gave up 1 run, but that was it. So that was also kind of interesting. Sims only threw 4 pitches.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting the way he used it. It worked tonight. I don't know if I have a great take on that. I just found that interesting.
Well, I think that there's been a couple times this year where they've tried to bring guys out for a second inning because that. Let me say it this way: David Bell has a little bit of a plan going into a game, right? And I say a little bit by probably I'm selling that short. My main point is that when he brought him in, the plan was to use Sims in 1 inning and go to the next guy. Let him throw an inning, go to the next guy. There's been a few times this year where David Bell has actually run a guy out for the second inning, in my opinion, going against his original plan because of what you just said. They've come into a situation with 2 outs or maybe 1 out, and they got a double play ball, or they got out of an inning faster than David Bell ever expected. He looked down at his sheet. He's seen that this guy's only thrown about 10 pitches. He goes back out, and it doesn't go well. And the thing that probably eats at David Bell, in my opinion, is that wasn't a part of his plan. He did not want to do that. But he let the situation of what he's seen dictate him making it a different decision than the one that he was rationally usually making before you get into high drama, high stakes, competitive atmospheres. Because when you get into that, you can let your judgment cloud sound reasoning sometimes, right? And I think that David Bell learned a lesson. That's not the word I'd like to use. But I think David Bell makes mental notes of things when he doesn't do something according to his plan and it goes wrong. And I think that the Ashcraft situation, in my opinion, Nick, was going against his plan too. I think that he was like, you know what? This guy's throwing the ball really, really well. I know, whether it's analytics or whether it's just the way that he traditionally managed, it goes against letting him go back out there is what I'm getting at in Ashcraft. And I'm not saying Ashcraft ruined it for everybody else, but I'm going to tell you, Ashcraft ruined it for everybody else. So, and it's not Ashcraft's problem. I'm just saying that when Ashcraft goes back out there and he gives up a 2-run bomb, David Bell in his mind is like, I'm never kid show effing doing this again. That's it. Yeah. I'm done. You guys had your chance. You guys all want to say, oh, you got to keep the ball. He's throwing too well. Yeah, well, there it goes. That's the end of that. You ruined it for everybody. So anyway, overall, good.
There is a little bit of nuance to that than just the complete look into the stat sheet in that. And one thing that probably does have to be added to this is I don't think it's always just David Bell's decision. David Bell is, I'm assuming, relying pretty heavily on what Derek Johnson is telling him that Derek Johnson is seeing, right? I mean, I think he's got to be saying, "Hey, DJ, where do you think he's at right now?" So there's more of a collaborative effort than I think it's just David Bell. Same thing with what I crushed David Bell on Friday night for. Someone on that bench should have been telling him, "Hey, you can use Friedel to pinch hit for Newman here and bring in Senzel to third base." It's like in basketball, like you have a coach that tells you how many timeouts you have. Like, it's not all just David Bell. Someone else has to step up as well and be like, "Hey, David, you're missing this." And so I think there's more. It's more than just. It doesn't always just start and end with David Bell. It's got to be that whole coaching staff.
I think it's an excellent point. But that's the way sports goes in general, right? I mean, if a head coach in college basketball makes a huge mistake, like you said, and he calls a timeout when there's no timeouts left, the head coach is the one that gets absolutely ridiculed. He gets crushed for it. But really, the assistant coach, and I'm not saying it's their job completely, but you're right. I mean, everyone has their roles and responsibilities. You'd like to think that maybe some of those guys that sit on the bench with him would give him those opportunities as well, because I the one thing that I had seen when I was gone was that how bad David Bell was mismanaging games. I don't know how much I can really take of that and say, oh, he must be really mismanaging games, when that's it's like the boy who cried wolf on Twitter, because when David Bell blows every single game, it's kind of hard when you don't watch the game if you can tell if he did blow it or if he really did struggle. Maybe the truth lies in the middle there. I don't know. But nonetheless, I just thought to myself today when I watched that and Williamson came out, I was like, David Bell's just sticking to his plan. He's made his decision before the game started on what he was planning on doing, and he is not letting any circumstances that he's watching dictate what he's going to do differently. So that's that. TJ Friedel, I think, is the player of the game. I think he is somebody that is, I don't want to say he's the golden child of this team, but of all of the players, Nick, maybe Matt McClain, but out of all the players in this team that I think get little to no ridicule from a fan base from, and also has performed relatively well, TJ Friedel's at the very top of that list. I'm not saying, of course, I asked if he was brain dead when he tried to throw a guy out from 390 feet from center field with a guy on first base. That was the tying run. But besides that one play, I can't think of one thing that TJ Friedel has done on the baseball field that I thought to myself, we need to get rid of this guy or he needs to not play.
You must have a different followers than I have. I don't know. The guy was getting crushed in July. He was getting crushed in July. He had one bad month, and it was like the guy was a terrible hitter. I don't understand it. He had 5 great months in a row. He had one bad month in July, and he's come back. Last 4 games, 7 for 16, 2 home runs, triple, and 3 stolen bases. He's a good player. I think eventually he's probably your 9-hole hitter, but I don't have any issue with him hitting at the top of the lineup in this year. And I think that David Bell shows confidence to guys like TJ Friedel through their slumps, leaves them there. And I think that might have something to do with them being able to bounce back and get through a 162-game season.
Maybe so. TJ Friedel had an enormous baseball hit tonight. Like, for those that didn't watch the game, and for those that are listening to this in podcast form tomorrow morning, when I tell you that TJ Friedel had about as close to and this is over dramatic, this is way too much of credit, but this is how I felt in the moment. A season saving, a rally, a morale boosting hit. That was about as close to it as you could get in the moment of where we were at. Vibes were low. Score was 1-0. It felt like, oh, here we go again. Offense can't score any runs. You give up a run in the first inning. And it's almost like when Friedel hit that ball down the line and it landed fair for his triple to score 2. You give the Reds a 2-1 lead. He gets up. He fires up the dugout. They're fired up. It's like everybody just collectively took a deep breath and was like, okay, we still can win. Like, these games are going to go our way. That's how I felt. I'm not saying that's how everyone else felt, but that's how I felt. And it was like, should I give him that much credit for one hit, Nick? Maybe not. But I honestly think if he strikes out right there, vibes continue to stay really low, because the truth is that everyone was looking at it and saying, okay, you got a good arm on the mound. Are you going to be able to get to him? He strikes him out. We're still scoreless. We're still waiting on somebody it just finally somebody stepped up and made a big time play, and TJ Friedel did it. And I think he deserves more credit than just, he had a triple to give the Reds a 2-1 lead. Like, that was more than just some regular go-ahead triple in the 3rd or 4th inning or whatever. I don't know what inning it was, but it was early.
Well, he also had a 3-run home run on Saturday when the Reds had a perfect game going against them and got 2 base runners. He had a 3-run home run. The Reds didn't win the game, but it certainly, turned a situation where it was like absolutely dire to at least there was a pulse. And I don't know if that carried over any momentum. I think those things can be really silly, but nonetheless, that was a huge hit in that game. And then that hit tonight, man, that was one of those moments where, was it probably overrated? Sure. But man, I went, oh, thank God. Like, you could take a deep breath. Like, all right, maybe we're going to be okay here. Maybe I can show my face on camera tonight, that kind of thing. It was a big hit, huge hit in the game.
It definitely was. All right, you got CES and you got Votto in here. Though they went back to back. It was nice to see CES in a way kind of get a little bit of another monkey off the back, whatever term you want to use. This is a guy that was known for his power, and for him to be sitting on one home run for as long as he did, I was relatively shocked by that, because I just thought in my mind, Nick, like, yeah, he might strike out a lot because of just his chase rate and the things that you have discussed before about CES. But one thing I did not think that would happen would be, and I don't want to say lack of power. That's not the term I want to use here, but I think he would just accidentally, luckily, run into a ball and it go out once every whatever how many games. And hopefully this gets him going. The good news is that, and I've said this before on previous shows, this was before they had the dumpster fire here, but a lot of these guys are due to get hot. They are. Now, whether that actually ends up happening, Nick, I don't know. But I'd like to think that there's a small chance, and this is what I keep telling myself, if they can just hang around, and if they can get hot, red hot, 2 or 3 weeks before the playoffs, and just take that right into the playoffs, never know. You never know. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is obviously that these guys aren't as good as we think they are, and they don't ever actually end up putting the numbers together that we expect them to put up. But we'll see what happens. But CES, I don't know what your thoughts on him are specifically, and then Votto, I don't know. I'll save my Votto thoughts until I hear your CES thoughts. How about that?
I thought CES had a great night, not just the home run. His first at-bat, I think, may have been his best at-bat of the whole night. He actually struck out, but he fell behind 0-2. And you're facing Yuri Perez, a guy that came in. I remember when I saw the tweet yesterday that he's coming back at the start against the Reds. I was just like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, this guy's a phenom. They showed the graphic, best start ever for a pitcher, 20 or under. But Perez looked really, really good early in the game. CES fell behind 0-2 in the count, battled back, got it 3-2. He struck out on a cold strike 3, but it was a very borderline pitch, a pitch that I have no problem with him taking, trying to draw a walk. Then the next at-bat, he hits a home run, and then he had another walk later in the game. So it wasn't just the home run. He had really, really good quality at-bats all night, and that was just really, really great to see for a guy that's had some struggles. And I hope that this is the kind of game that can maybe really get him going.
Shockingly, and before I talk about Votto, I do want to say you talk about having some really good at-bats. Ellie's not on the rundown, but I do want to at least say right before the TJ Friedel triple, should Ellie get a ton of credit for walking? Maybe not, because the balls weren't. I mean, it wasn't like he had to battle incredibly hard to earn that walk. But he did lay off some pitches out of the zone, and I do want to at least say, hey, listen, if we're going to crush this 21-year-old who's a rookie for swinging at poor pitches and being a little undisciplined at the plate, then I think we should say, at least in that at-bat, that was a growing moment for Ellie De La Cruz, at least. Now, it was one at-bat, so take that for what it's worth. Votto, this guy, you want to talk about changing your approach at the plate in your late career. I don't know what term you'd like to use with that. I mean, he's got power now. He might not hit for average all that much anymore. He might not get on base anywhere close to what he used to. But he does hit for power. And I mean, that's one thing that you, no matter who it is, must admit to, I guess. And I don't know how you feel about Votto. I think he's been hot lately, and hopefully he continues that up. And like I said before, this is his last season as Cincinnati Red. I continue to pray that it goes incredibly well, and he goes out on the highest note you could possibly go out on, because it's been a pleasure watching this guy play. Not that I'm trying to count down the days or nothing like that. I don't want to make this sound like we're casting our like my wife does. She has our dog dead after like 2 years of having him, because that's just the way she thinks. I'm like, wait a minute, honey. We got like 8 or 9 more years before the dog's passing away. You're already crying over him getting older or something. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm already casting Joey Votto being gone, but I do want to at least take in the appreciation of what this year is.
Yeah, I mean, he's found a way to stay productive. I mean, 13 home runs. He only had 11 all last year. 2018, he played 145 games and only had 12 home runs. So the fact that he has 13 home runs coming off this major surgery is just incredible. Obviously, the batting average is really low, but he's still being productive. So until he stops being productive, they all count. You can be Luis Ariz and hit 375, but really it's not that great because he doesn't ever hit an extra base hit. I mean, he's a really good player, don't get me wrong, but he's not like an MVP caliber player just because he hits that high. Votto's been a productive player hitting just over 200 because he's hitting 13 home runs. He's hitting a home run every couple games. And obviously you'd like to have guys that can hit for a high average, but the Reds do have kind of a decent balance in that. And a guy like Votto has been valuable to this team up to this point.
Yeah, I was going to look up a guy. I don't have time right now because I'll start pecking on my keyboard and it'll make you upset. But one thing, I'm kidding when I say that. One thing that I'm curious about is in a day and an age when obviously analytics are much more of a part of the baseball culture, a guy like Kyle Schwarber hitting leadoff. I mean, I don't know what he was batting like 190 at one point. I don't know if he's still batting 190, but he's been a leadoff guy all year for a team that expects to make the playoffs. So, Votto's average is definitely different than what it used to be, but when you hit for some power like Schwarber, it makes a difference.
Schwarber also walks in like 16% of his plate appearances. So he's hitting a $182, but he's got a 321 on base percentage, and that's a down year. Normally his on base is up like 370 even with a terrible average. He walks so much, and maybe there might be something to that, and kind of like maybe what they're thinking with Ellie right now. I know a lot of people hate him in the leadoff spot, and that's fine. I understand why people hate that, but Ellie's also not coming up in situations often where there's two runners on base and he's striking out, and maybe it could add a little bit of additional pressure to him, make the strikeouts feel worse than they are. When you're striking out with the bases empty, it doesn't feel as bad when you're striking out when there's two runners on base. So there might be something also to that with why they have Ellie De La Cruz hitting leadoff.
Right. The next thing that we have on the rundown, obviously, is the Reds rotation. When I keep saying we need to survive in advance, we need to tread water, need to try to find a way to get ourselves to the last month of the season, this is what I'm talking about. And you have on here, obviously, a little bit of a graphic of what it looks like for this month in regards to starting pitching. I'll let you kind of walk through and illustrate kind of what your point is here with this.
Well, Lyon Richardson was sit down today, so barring injury, he has to stay down 15 days. Connor Phillips, there was some speculation on him because he was originally supposed to start on Sunday for Louisville. They scratched him, no word, but now he's listed to start tomorrow, which, interesting enough, puts him starting on the same day as Luke Weaver. So if you're watching, and I'll edit this out for the podcast because there's no point in trying to go through this here, but if you're watching, you see, the Reds can get by with 4 starters until Hunter Green is supposed to come back on the 20th. So will they just roll with that? Is it maybe tomorrow they're going to watch Luke Weaver and they're going to watch Connor Phillips and they're going to say, all right, let's figure out who's the best option. The next Weaver spot is against the Guardians, a team that's not a very good offensive team. So that could also have something to do with it as well. But just kind of something to monitor here. I would like to see Luke Weaver out of the rotation, or I would like to see Andrew Abbott pushed back. I a little worried about Abbott's workload at this point. I wish they would at least take one or the other with this extra day off, but let's see, I guess, what they do with Phillips. That's maybe the interesting caveat here. You
think that there's a chance they throw Phillips and try to give one of the younger guys, and I say younger guys as in Andrew Abbott specifically, a rest? Is that? I mean, that's a thought. I'm not suggesting that's the answer. I think some of it. How much do you think that this is where I go back and forth. And I don't know the right answer to this. I'm saying this with straight face. I don't know if I know the right answer. How much of the playoff race dictates what you end up doing with some of these young guys?
Oh, everything. I mean, if there's no playoff race, I don't think you're pushing Andrew Abbott deep into September. I don't think you even think about it.
Well, I'm saying,
Because
what's the scale look like? What's the scale look like? Is it? And again, this isn't the. I know this isn't the answer. Is it all hell breaks loose with the young guys? We don't care about their pitch count. We don't care about nothing. Let's go win, 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 win. I know that's not the answer. And then the opposite would be like, no matter what happens, I don't give a damn if we're pitching in the World Series and we, 4 of our starters get sick with the flu and we have Andrew Abbott, then he's not pitching because we're worried about his inning count. We know that wouldn't happen. So somewhere in the middle lies the truth. I guess the question is like, where are we on that scale is the real question.
You got to weigh everything. I mean, obviously, number one, you got to monitor Andrew Abbott. You got to have a gauge of where he's at, and you got to have a
well, even all these guys, Nick. I'm not talking about just Abbott. I mean, Williamson's in that boat. Even Connor Phillips. Let's say Connor Phillips. And this is so stupid, but there's another hypothetical. Connor Phillips comes up. He throws one game in the son of a kid show. He strikes out 14 guys, gives up 4 hits, 1 run through 7 2/3 innings. Are you really going to say he's not going to ever pitch again this year? Probably not. So at some point, you got a lot of answers from a lot of different guys. I know this is not fair hypothetical, but that's what you do on a show.
Yeah, and some of these problems might resolve themselves. Let's be honest.
Injuries, right?
No, that wasn't even what I was going to say.
I'm just being funny.
Man, you're killing me. No, so I mean, honestly, I hate to say this. This might actually be worse than saying injuries. Andrew Abbott could struggle in September, and it's not really even a thing of we have to pitch him in the playoffs. He finally starts looking like a rookie, right? That could happen, and then you're not even really worried about that. You could also, let's say the Reds do make the playoffs. You could also not even start Andrew Abbott and say, all right, Andrew Abbott, we're going to limit your innings in the playoffs. We're going to make you a 2-inning reliever. You could use.
He could be an opener.
Yeah, it could be a very valuable thing. I mean, you're talking that first round's a 3-game series. It's all hands on deck. Reds have a pretty good bullpen. You don't need your starters to go out and throw 6 innings to win a game in a playoff series. So, but that's a whole nother thing if you even get there.
Okay, fair enough. Russ in the chat says, didn't Carl say Abbott would not be on a inning limit?
He did.
Yeah, he did.
I was shocked.
Yeah, you know what that comes down to, though, Nick? I think that a little bit of that is these guys aren't 18 and 19-year-old kids either. Like, and I know you've heard me say this a billion times. Like, I mean, Andrew Abbott is not a traditional rookie. He's just not. I mean, when I say rookie, I mean, like, he's just not a guy that has not been pushed to the max. He's just not. He's not. If this kid was, put it this way, if Andrew Abbott was 18 years old, right, or 19 years old, some phenom that throws 100 miles an hour, has a lot of high-stress pitches, I think that the answer would be different. John, go ahead.
He's a lot different than Hunter Green when he was a rookie.
Correct. John with the super chat said, would the Reds bring Votto back next season if he's willing to take a major pay cut? John, that's a good question, actually. It's a fair question.
It's a good. I don't even know the answer with the MLBPA. If you decline an option, is there something with that? I don't know. I mean, I guess they could decline the option. He gets the buyout and then signs for a league minimum or $2 million or I don't know, whatever.
Right.
That's maybe not bad. I don't know if there's something with the MLBPA on that. Have you ever heard of a situation where a team declines an option and the player still ends up coming back? I can't remember one.
Well, that's because the Joey Votto situation in and of itself is very rare, if ever. I mean, you might see it a couple times in your entire life. My gut just tells me no. I just think that this Reds front office, like it or not, has a plan. And that plan, unfortunately, if you want to look at it, it's like, I don't want to turn this into a negative thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I am very hesitant to talk about the Votto situation, because any word that you spew about anything about Votto in some capacity, some people think that you're, against him, or you think that you're a complete hater. And then the opposite side, if you say something really nice about Joey Votto, they say that, well, you're just pandering to a guy that's been here for a long time. You're biased. If you look at his numbers and what he's actually worth, then he's this. the truth again in this show, if there's anything I've said 1,000 times, is that truth does lie in the middle of those two things. I think the front office, in my mind, has been ready to move on, and they are ready to move on. They have a plan in place, and that plan does not include Joey Votto. It just doesn't. It doesn't. We'll see. I'm not saying I hope that's the case. I just don't see them bringing back a guy that's going to take up a roster spot that's 40, 41 years old. He's already shown regression. He has had some high moments. He's had some bright spots. But in general, I don't think Votto is back no matter what happens. And that's just the facts. We're not going to bring that up yet, though, because that's sad. It is sad. It's not fun to talk about that.
There's been wide opinions on Joey Votto. I see it. We see it in our chat. We see how do the Reds keep having Joey Votto in the lineup? Is one side we have like people who want Joey Votto in the lineup, to people on Twitter saying, how could you even possibly think they wouldn't pick up his option? It is literally that. I guess where I would kind of look at is $13 million is basically the number between the buyout and Votto. Like $13 million would be Zach Eflon, was a starting pitcher signed last year for $13 million, who's been a very, very valuable pitcher this season for the Rays. Like, it's hard to justify that much money that could be put to a really huge need for the team.
He's not. Listen, can we rip the Band-Aid off and be honest? Joey Votto's not coming back anywhere close to the amount of money that he's owed. It's not even close. The only hypothetical I can come up with is that Joey Votto goes back to ownership and he says, you know what, I get it. I do get it, because I think that's one thing Joey Votto has been unbelievable with his entire career. He gets it. He's not stupid. He understands the business. He understands how all this works. The only chance in hell, in my opinion, that Joey Votto's back, okay, to be clear, is that if he signs for like league minimum and he agrees that there are times where he might not even be on the roster at times, depending on how things go. Like, and that's where I don't think the Reds will even put themselves in that position. I just don't. I don't think they'll do that. I really don't. Put it this way. He's not a distraction because he's not similar to Tim Tebow. It's not his fault that he would be a distraction. Tim Tebow, it wasn't really his fault at the end of the day that he was a distraction. It was more of a media thing. It would be a distraction because Joey Votto is not playing all the time, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, that would be a distraction. It would be talked about, and there would be reporters asking about it. Can we just all collectively appreciate Joey Votto for this year? I don't want to be the bearer of bad news right now. I'm not trying to be negative at all. I'm just going to be honest. This is Joey Votto's last year. Just take it in. Enjoy it. That's that. I mean, it's that. What's up next? Anything?
That's it.
Okay. Joe, this isn't a morgue here. This isn't a funeral. We got 47 games left, people. We got 47 games left. I didn't choose scoreboard watching tonight. You probably know right now, Nick, where we're at. We're at no worse than a game and a half out of first place. Let's get some likes. Let's win the division. And let's talk about Joey Votto when the season's over. Okay? Let's just appreciate Joey Votto for what he is right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is up next? You put it on the rundown. Is that just who, what, when, where, and why? Is it as simple as that, Nick?
That is. Do we want to get into like the whole expectations?
Oh, I do.
I
do. So this is probably the best part of the show, in my opinion. I do.
Or the worst.
I don't think it's the worst. There's one thing that people can't accuse me of. And that is that I've ridden both sides, or that I'm on one side, right? Like, in the political spectrum, and this isn't a politics show. We're going to keep it that way. I promise you. But I'm trying to use an example here. In politics, you have people on two sides of an aisle, Republicans and Democrats. And for whatever reason, society has gotten to a point now where social media driven, however it is that some people that identify with this party root themselves into whatever ideology that party believes in, no matter what. It's this blind faith belief. It's this, I'm right because this is what my belief system, this is what our groupthink mentality all believes. And the other side does the same thing. And so what happens is when one side disagrees with the other, you go farther apart. It's like, oh, you think you're going to do that? Well, watch this. And it's like, I don't say we're not getting anywhere, but ultimately no one wins. No one wins. But it's like a huge house fire, and everyone's arguing over who gets to go out the door first. And by the time anyone goes out the door, everyone's already burnt to crisp. So for those that want to sit here and say that and what I'm getting at is everyone that wants to sit here and say, well, before the season started, you would have been unbelievably happy right now. If I told you that we were a game out, you'd be happy. Blah, blah, blah. So turn your frown upside down and be happy. Okay, well, that's easy to say, but I just looked back 2 weeks ago. We looked like the best team in baseball. We had every ability in the world, Nick, to bury Milwaukee and to bury the Chicago Cubs for 2 weeks of decent baseball and arguably possibly win the division going away. That was possible. I'm not saying it was probable, but it was possible. It was something that if I told you and anyone else that the Reds would have an 8-game lead in the division and you gave me, call it whatever, I'm using ridiculous hyperbole here, but I'll give you $100 if they don't have an 8-game lead, but if they do have an 8-game lead, you die. No one's taking that bet. No one's taking that bet, Nick. No one's like, there's no way that they won't be 8 games up. They could have been 8 games up is the point I'm making. So reasonable minds should understand why there's a group of people that are absolutely pissed off at the world because their favorite baseball team had a chance to do something that they have not done in so long, and they pissed the bed a little bit. That's what they did. They pissed the bed. Now, is it over? No. And on the opposite side, I think it's reasonable to expect, Nick, where you're at, which is you try to rationalize with people and tell them, hey, I'm just trying to remind you that this team might not be as good or they might not be where you want them to be right now. So at the end of it, here's the expectation. You tweeted out a simple graph that said, statistically speaking, of course, this is the percent chance that the Reds have of making the postseason. It's never been above 50%. And some people take that as you saying, oh, well, look at this little poor team. They're okay. Don't get mad at them. They were never supposed to be in this situation. And I don't think that's what you're saying. But unfortunately, rational people, I would like to think there's more of us, see both sides of this. Is that fair to say? Where are you at with the whole notion of that the Reds completely pissed the season away? And then also, hey, where were you guys at in February when you told me they were going to lose 100 games?
I don't really have an issue with people that are upset, or maybe even the ones that are upset that they didn't do more at the deadline. What I just think was a little ridiculous is that this notion that I've been playing both sides of this. Like, I'm pretty sure if you look back at most of our shows, even when the Reds were on the win streak, I think I wasn't all like, hey, this is a for sure thing. We're for sure we're the playoffs. I feel like I constantly push back on this. I feel like when we went to the deadline, we were talking about the deadline. I was like, hey, the odds are still like below 50%. That's why I'm a little cautious of going all in right now. I think that's kind of the thing that to me that I was just like, I've kind of been cautious here all year. I've enjoyed it. I've been excited about it. I've been excited about this opportunity, but I don't think I ever jumped in and said, this is a surefire playoff team. I don't think I've ever said that all year. If I have, please find it on the the tapes. We do them after every game, and let me know, because I don't think I ever really was at that point this year. But yeah, I mean, I do think it's a little disingenuous if where this team's going to lose 100 games and then they should be going all in at the trade deadline. That's a pretty wide swing within a couple months. But I get the other side. But again, I don't think that this was the time to really go all in. And I don't really know even if there necessarily is ever going to be a time to go all in, because I think that the good small markets never really go all in. They're always trying to win now and looking to the future. And I think I've been saying that all year.
Well, the problem with Twitter is, and I when I say Twitter, I mean the X app. That's on me. I got you to laugh. Here's the thing. I see both sides of it. I do. And here's the issue that I would take for the people that are really pissed off and think that, saying they should have only won 60 games is a loser's mindset. I think that is true if that's the mindset of the players, and that's the mindset of the manager, and that's the mindset of the front office. I think that's true. The big difference is that there's fans. And fans can set expectations however they want, and it makes no impact over what the team does or doesn't do. The last 2 weeks, in my opinion, have little to do with the trade deadline. It has little to do with, whether or not one guy is in the lineup or not in the lineup, whether or not this team just is nowhere near as good as they were. I think this team's good. I just think when you play 162 games, you're going to have spells where you don't play good baseball, and then you couple that with all the things that happened of late, which is maybe a couple mismanaged games by David Bell, add in the trade deadline, add in Jonathan India going down with an injury, and you have a complete recipe for fans to be frustrated, especially when you add in the fact that this team was 10 games over 500, going in to play Milwaukee 6 times with a 2-game lead. Coming out of it, being down 2 games, you turn that around, you go into Chicago, you win the first one, thank God, and then you blow. And then basically from there on, they played really bad baseball. It's one thing to lose the way they did, Nick, or lose a game. It's another way to lose the way they did. And I think that just added fuel to the fire. So all in all, I'm just trying to rationalize with both sides of the aisle here. If you were somebody that said they were going to lose 100 games, and now you're really upset at Nick Krall because he didn't go out at the deadline and get someone that you can't even say who they should have gone out and gotten, then I think that you need to be a little rational in saying that, you know what? This sucks. Is it okay just to say it sucks and not have an answer? Is that okay in life? Is it okay to ever one time, possibly on Twitter or just in general in society, to raise your hand and say, you know what? I wish things were going better, but I don't really know exactly what could have done to make it better. And that's where the Reds are at. They got a bunch of unproven guys. I've said that time and time and time again. We don't know how good we really are. We don't. If you want to right now tell me that this is the best team for sure in anything, that's why I'm hesitant to say they're the best team, because you don't really know. In 6 years from now, or let's just say 10 years to make it more fun. In 10 years from now, Nick, you might look at this lineup and genuinely tell yourself, how the hell did anybody beat these guys? Because that's how good all of these players were. Or in 10 years, you might look back and be like, who the hell are 8 of the, out of the 9 guys that start every night, who in the hell are 7 of them? That's possible. So, I don't know, man. I guess that's social media.
I think the one thing that also got missed in this is there's multiple paths the Reds could have gone here. Is there's also a possibility that you go out and you make a couple trades that are really, like you trade for Michael Lorenzen. Our friend Aram Layton at Just Baseball said that would cost probably Carlos Jorge. It would have been the equivalent of what the Phillies gave up for him. So there's a chance that you acquire Michael Lorenzen. Mike Lorenzen comes in and pitches great for the Reds, and they still miss the playoffs. Like, that's still a possibility. You could make a couple really great trades. You could have acquired multiple pieces, and you still miss the playoffs because the Reds are banking on Ellie De La Cruz, Matt McClain, Spencer Steer. Their whole freaking lineup is mostly rookies, and we have no idea. I have no idea. You have no idea. Everyone on X.com has no idea how these guys are going to perform in their first September of a 162-game season. And that's why I was more risk-averse of giving up prospects that could be really valuable down the line for something that I really have no idea how they're going to perform. And that's where I'm at. And if you were more like, hey, I'm for sure sold these guys aren't, that's fine. You can have that mindset. We'll have to see how it plays out.
Well, I don't think that you could have that mindset and say they should go for it now, because if you're saying they should go for it now and trade away prospects when you don't think that the guys they have here are going to end up being good, then what the hell are you talking about? How the hell does that work? So you want to trade the guys that are behind the guys you don't believe in because you need to go for it now because you're not sure if these guys are good enough to make the playoffs later? Explain that one to me. Oh, I'm talking about the people that say, well, you never know if you're going to be back. Now, that's true. But my God, if these guys that are rookies who basically damn near carried us close to the playoffs, if they can't get us back, then who the hell can? You know what this is? To be fair to that crowd, and this is where I genuinely think that I do. I don't want to say I'm always level-headed because I'm not, obviously. Nick, there needs to be at least some sentiment or some resounding understanding that those people that are pissed off are mad because they've been promised something for a long effing time, dude. They've been sold this bag of goods for years and years and years and years, and just because it's not Nick Krall's fault, but my point is that this franchise is they're not going to get the benefit of doubt anymore. And as much as that might piss guys off like yourself and other people when they see what's going on that's differently than before, the vast majority of the fan base doesn't have the time, the effort, the energy to put themselves in a position to be able to see the difference. So now, quite frankly, they finally have a little bit of taste of something, and they just want it so damn bad that they don't want to hear about next year because they've been waiting for next year so long, and that's a little bit of an understandable take. The problem is that when you keep doing that over and over again, you're always poor. It'd be nice to save up a little money in a way and finally go and do something nice. All right. I know you took a beating on Twitter. When I say Twitter, I mean X.com. And I see both sides of it. I really do. All right. We'll get to do the show again tomorrow. And what is tomorrow? Tomorrow is Tuesday, August 8th. And this isn't a loser's mentality when I tell you this, because we're going to win, Kid Show. We're going to win this effing division. We are going to win the effing division. I'm going to print the damn shirts. We're winning the division. If you don't believe that right now, go look in the mirror and talk to yourself and say that so many damn times before you go to bed that you believe it. Luke Weaver throws tomorrow. Nick, let him know who, what, when, where, and why.
Well, Luke Weaver pitches tomorrow. My one positive for you is only started against the Marlins this year. 5 1/3 innings, 1 run. That's all I got on Luke Weaver. Not saying anything else. Braxton Garrett will be going for the Marlins. He has a 5.83 ERA in his last 6 starts, but he does not walk anyone. One of the best walk rates in baseball this year. He faced the Reds earlier this year, 5 innings, 1 run. So did pitch pretty well against the Reds. Nick Senzel, 2 for 5 with a double against Braxton Garrett. Tomorrow, 6:40. Tickets still available.
Tickets are definitely available. I seen the Red seats in mass numbers tonight. That's because the weather looked like it was going to be pretty bad. It's also Monday night. Kids are starting to get ready, getting close to going back to school. I don't want to hear about this, oh, look at the fans, blah, blah, blah. We ain't doing that. All right? We ain't doing that. I don't know if you have any other final thoughts, Nick. I appreciate being back. I thank you for holding the fort down while I was gone. I'm sure there's many people that are in the chat now that are probably tired of hearing me give analogies and do all the things that I always do on the show. But here's what I do want to say. I was gone for a little while, and this isn't a loser's mentality, because I want everybody to realize that I think that this team can win this division. But I also want to remind everybody that in life, most of the time, your happiness is derived mostly from your expectations that you create. It's the perspective that you have. And one thing that I was forced to do when I was in college, that I when we played, is that we had to read a book called Heads Up Baseball. And it was strictly about the mental side of sports psychology. And I won't say it was before its time, but in a way it was. I mean, we had to read the book. We had to do chapter studies. We basically treated it like a Bible study, and we had to learn a lot of things about it. And within that, we also then had to create perspective posters, is what I'm getting at. And those perspective posters, God's honest truth, I still use to this day. Not maybe physically, but I think about them all the time. So what we would have to do, and I almost did a State of the Union the other day and suggested that David Bell in the front office do this. And it might sound corny, and maybe it is. I don't give a damn. I believe in it. But you make a perspective poster and you hang it in your locker, or you put it in the dugout. And it's things that it allows your mind to realize how special and lucky you are. So when we my perspective poster, it had 9/11 on it, it had firefighters on it, it had, essentially third world countries that are digging wells. And again, some people say, "Oh, that's loser's mentality." All I'm trying to say is that if you close your eyes and realize that on August 8th, the Cincinnati Reds have every chance in the world to win this division, as crappy as it's been the last week and a half, if you give yourself a little perspective, just a little bit, you have to be thrilled to death. Is that a loser's mentality? Maybe it is a little. I'm not suggesting that we should be like, and I say we as in like, the Reds players should be jumping for joy and saying, "Oh, look at us, participation trophies." But if you can't enjoy this team, then when are you going to enjoy the Reds? Is it strictly just purely when they win the whole damn thing? Is that what it takes? Because that's how I felt, God's honest, with Georgia football. I did feel that way. And I'm going to say something right now that you might think I'm lying. I had so much anxiety and stress about Georgia football that when they finally won it, Nick, I genuinely sat there after they won the championship and I thought to myself, was all of this stuff that I used to always like agonize over, was it really worth it? Like, this is it? I look around like, this is it? Now, will I be thrilled to death when the Reds win the World Series? Yes, I will. But my main point is that don't not enjoy this ride, because we don't know what we're going to get. A lot of these kids are young. Live it up. By God, you should enjoy Joey Votto in his final year, and Kevin Newman, for that matter, in his final year as well.
Glad you got a dig in it, Kev.
That wasn't a dig
on a night
Kev.
when he had a hit and a stolen base. Come on.
That wasn't a dig at Kev. Kev's playing great. That ball he had at second base tonight, that was a tough play. You telling me it wasn't?
Cage.
Let's do some Nick on Nick crime. Does anyone in the chat have any final parting thoughts or questions? And then we're going to dunk a basketball. Let's see that Nick. See that Nick Cage pillow. Go ahead.
India was pushed back to Friday. Someone was asking about that. Shucks. Where would you bat him? I don't know. Probably in CES's spot, 6th or 7th.
I say we throw him in the leadoff spot and just see what happens.
I don't really care. If people shut up about it, put him in leadoff. Like, that's kind of where I'm at. It doesn't matter. So I'm just so sick of hearing about it. Just put them in the freaking leadoff spots and people will shut up. Like, I don't care.
Oh, they've broken you. They've broken you. They've beat you down. They've beat you down. That happens, Nick. That happens. All right. Well, I'm glad to be back. I got to figure out where this basketball is, if we're being honest. This basketball has been MIA for quite some time. Hopefully it doesn't need air. But we're going to dunk a basketball. We're going to come back tomorrow. We're going to try to do it all over again. Byron saying, I love you guys and thankful to watch and listen every day. Well, we appreciate you watching. But I may never get over the Tim Tebow analogy. What? Is that a bad one?
Did you compare? I think you compared Votto to Tebow. That.
Well, I didn't compare him directly. I was just trying to reiterate that it's not their fault. It's not their fault that the situation that they're in is going to be some of the reason as to why they're not brought around. That's what I was getting at. And that's the truth. People did not take Tim Tebow because they did not want the media obligations for a third-string quarterback. Or, for that matter, a try-it-out tight end or something. And you know what? They're not going to bring back a 41-year-old Joey Votto who is at best going to give them average numbers at the first base position, so then they can hear about why he's not playing all the time, or he's going to be not a distraction to the team per se, but just, again, a nuisance from a reporter standpoint. All right. Let's dunk a basketball. I don't got anything for you tonight in regards to positive optimism. I've already done that. I've already done my best. I don't know how else to say it. If you don't love watching this team, find a reason to love it. Find a reason to love it. Take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. I'm going to get pissed off. You're going to get pissed off. The chances of this season ending with a win are very small, and sometimes you got to remember that. But you can also understand why we probably are going to win this division, because we are the best team in the NL Central. I'm going to keep saying that. You should look at... You do this tonight. I'm going to go dunk this basketball. I want you to walk to the closest mirror that you can, look straight into that damn thing and say, the Reds are the best team in the NL Central, and by God, they're going to win it. Because that's what they're going to do. Now, without further ado, I'm going to go try to dunk this basketball. Just like the Reds, we came out of nowhere. Athlete!